We're pleased to welcome Mr. Jonathan Davies, who's travelled down from Newport this evening to be with us. Monmouth, there we go, okay, it was close. Now, you've probably not met him before, but for those of you who are FaceTwit fans, well, no doubt you'll see many interesting posts that he's put up on the Symphon site over the last sort of couple of months. Now, Jonathan used to reside in the Landimore area of Gower, and it's an incident that occurred over that area back in 2010 and he's going to talk to you about tonight. I believe one of our members, Steve Griffiths, who actually we haven't seen for quite some time, he interviewed Jonathan about the incident, but tonight Jonathan's going to tell you in detail about it firsthand. He's also had a number of other sightings and is another witness to our famous Night of the Triangles incident back in 1983. And he actually had missing time scenario at that time as well. Now, it's been quite some time since we had a monthly meeting actually devoted to the main topic of our group's interest, which is UFOs. So I'm sure you're all going to enjoy tonight's presentation. Anyway, I believe this is his first talk with a live audience, although he's done lots of other things. So please give a very warm welcome, please, to Mr. Jonathan Davies. Thank you.
Steve. Good evening, everyone. It is my first presentation, so bear with me, guys, and be nice. So yeah, Steve, like Steve said, I'm involved in the UFO scene. I've been an experiencer all my life, literally since I was a child. I can't remember when it started. I would see things in the fields as I was wandering around the fields, like orbs, small tennis-sized ball-size orbs, different colours, reds, orange, white. I would wander around and they would be about 100 metres away from me. They never interacted with me really. I would just see them, my friends wouldn't see them, and it used to cause me a bit of an issue when I was a child. I'd try and tell my friends what I was seeing, and and I used to get them to tell them, get taken on me basically. I stopped talking about it. I didn't tell my family about it. It was a big issue for me. So I didn't really get involved in this topic at all. But I was seeing things. I'd be in bed and I'd wake and my mouth would be wide open and I couldn't move, and I'd be floating up to the ceiling. And then I'd black out and I'd wake and I'd find myself in a room and I'd have eyes all around me, like large black bull-like eyes just circling me. Again, no messages, no downloads, nothing like that, just an ongoing interference in my life. This is all going on as a child. Made me a bit of a loner. I stayed away from everyone. When I used to go out into the fields, I'd be on my own because I couldn't, nobody else would see these things. I would see these things, and I didn't know what they were. I didn't think they were UFOs. I was too young at that time. I didn't know what it was. I didn't. And even now, are they UFOs or orbs? I don't know. I haven't got the answers that some people might ask me later. If I got the answers, I haven't got the answers. I just see these things, and I don't really know why I see these things. And I've always seen these things. Yeah, a bit closer. Sorry everyone. So, an incident that happened when I was 13, I was out again on my own. When I used to go into the woods, these things would be white when they'd be out in the field, these orange orbs, about sort of white orbs would be about the size of a tennis ball, and they would follow me into the woods, and I go into the woods and they change colour to red. They always change colour to red. I have absolutely no idea why, but they used to. But it was quite a nice thing for me because I'd be on my own, but I always knew these things were around me, sort of thing. I was never on my own, if you like. One time when I was 13, I literally collapsed in the woods, and my appendix was bursting. I was in agony. I was on the floor, and these things literally started surrounding my head, all different colours these were this time. There was several of these, but I was in so much pain I didn't pay them that much attention. I literally crawled home and I had my appendix taken out a few hours later. When I was 15 then, I had the Night of the Triangles incident. And the guys from Sufon have interviewed me about that. I don't know whether you want to play that video now, Mike.
Yeah, fine, isn't it?
My legs are shaking. I never get nervous. Ever.
Yeah, like I say, I was 15 years old. I can tell you why I know the dates, etc. But we
You can't do that
later.
I'll talk you through instead.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I was 15, 1983, I literally found myself in a field about 1.5 miles from my home, and I had no idea how I got there. It was. Are you going to try and fix that? He goes.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah. So I'm in this field, no idea how I got there. It's freezing cold. 19th of January, as you know, is middle of winter. I have a t-shirt and a pair of jeans on. And as I'm in this field, I'm just looking up at the sky, and as I'm looking at the sky, the whole sky just moved. Yeah, it was like a giant, miles wide, boomerang-shaped craft. I think there were 3, to be honest. It was like 1, 2, 3, inverted. So I'm looking at this thing, and I'm in like a bubble. I'm away from the rest of the world. There's no sound. I couldn't feel the cold at that point. It was just me looking at the sky, watching this thing move. And as soon as it moved, the bubble bursts, sort of thing. And I realise, I look around. I'm in a field, like I say, a few miles from home. I recognise where I am because I look to my right, and there's a leisure centre a half mile to my right, and I realise where I am. All the field's got like a mist, a very low mist below my knees. There's a stream behind me though, so that's probably come from that. I'm not going to say that's come from this object or anything like that. So this thing moves, and I suddenly feel uncomfortable, and I run home a few miles home. And I lived on a council estate, and there wasn't a person to be seen on this really busy council estate normally. It's a sort of estate where everyone stands outside and talks. You know, it's a really nice community type estate where you'd stand outside in the old days. You know, it's not like that these days, I know, but that's what it was like. But all the curtains were shut on the homes, but all the lights were still on. So it was early evening, late evening. I don't actually know the time. So I get home, not seeing a person, not seeing a car. And I get to the front door and I think to myself, I'm going to be in trouble, because I literally had no idea where I'd been that day or even the previous day. My memory was just gone. Yeah, all I know is I was in that field and I'd run home. So I get to my front door and I think I'm going to be in trouble. So I go around the back of the house. When I was a kid and I was naughty, I'd go around the back of the house and I'd literally climb up the drain pipe and get in through the bathroom window, and that's exactly what I did. I got in through the bathroom window, I went to bed, and I thought to myself, I'm going to be in trouble the next day with my parents, because I must have done something, you know, because I've got no memory, so something must have happened, but I didn't know what it was. So anyway, next day, I go downstairs. Like I say, I'm 15, so I'm still in school. I'm dressed for school, I go downstairs. My parents don't say a word about it, apart from my mum telling me that I haven't cleaned my rugby boots. Why didn't I clean my rugby boots from school the day before? So at that point, I straight away knew we played rugby on Wednesday. Night of the Triangles was a Wednesday. We actually moved house about 2 weeks after the Night of the Triangles. And that's how I know the dates. I worked it all out from the dates. It was the same night that all the people down this way and the rest of South Wales were seeing things. Unfortunately, nobody saw this thing that I saw. So my mum didn't say anything to me apart from that. I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to get in trouble, so I never said a word to her about what I thought had happened, or you know what had happened for the last few days. I knew because I was moving home. I didn't need to say anything to my friends in school because we were moving, and I thought, I'm not going to want to look an idiot again. Here we go again without seeing things, you know. And this was giant. I mean, I couldn't see it was huge. It was literally miles wide. I couldn't see to the left how big it was. I couldn't see to the right how big it was. Yeah, I knew the area, so I knew it was literally over the right-hand side. It was over the forest, and the forest was a couple of miles wide, and this was past the forest. Yeah, it was so high up. I mean, that's why I thought initially I was looking at the stars, to be honest with you. But then as soon as it moved, I saw the rows of lights. If you think of the Phoenix lights in America, if any of you have seen that, it'll give you an idea of the sort of thing that I saw. But this wasn't large white lights like you saw on the Phoenix lights. There was, I don't know, 6 or 7 on each side of the Phoenix lights. This was hundreds of small white lights in a boomerang shape, but 1, 2, 3 boomerangs like that. Yeah, so I mean that's the night of the triangles thing. I moved 2 weeks after that. We moved into the oldest house in Newport, and up until that point I'd never seen ghosts. And this house was built in 1580. It was a large old mansion house, and as soon as we moved in, literally within a day or so, I was seeing ghosts. I was being pushed by ghosts. I was being spoken to. It was, you know, tapping on the top of the head, sitting on my bed, grabbing my leg. It was nuts, you know. And I don't know whether that was all related, that I suddenly, you know, become that more attuned, having had this experience with the large craft only a week or so earlier, or 2 weeks earlier. I don't know whether it was that. I mean, it might be that I was already attuned. I just hadn't been in the environment where I could have seen a ghost or experienced a ghost. I'm not sure. So that was basically my night of the triangle. So anyone who's here that saw that, you're not alone. I saw that as well. And I never got to tell anyone. You know, I literally, somebody on Twitter told me, Bruce Fenton, I was talking to the author Bruce Fenton, and he told me about the night of the triangles after I said to him what had happened to me when I was 15. And he suggested I get in contact with Sue Fon and talk it through with the guys, and that's what I did. You know, so that was that side of things. I'd already at that point reported what I'd seen at Landimore, like the guys have already said about that. So that was my younger years. I didn't really see major events. I mean, what I class as major events are things like giant craft and craft landing in my garden. To be honest with you, you know, other people might think major event is seeing a UFO. I see UFOs every week. You know, and I always have. I'll see orange orbs in the sky, like you're going to see on the presentation. But I see those all the time. Every 3 months, I'll see 3 giant orange orbs that pass. But it doesn't matter where I live. I've lived right across South Wales, and these things are everywhere. It was more intense when I was living in Landimore. I'll be quite honest with you. This area, it's got a large magnetic anomaly in the area. The Swansea and the Gower Peninsula have got a very large magnetic anomaly, and I was seeing things in all the time. I literally worked from home, and I would look out onto the estuary, onto the Locker estuary, and I would look up in the sky. I'd see cigars going over, I'd see emerald craft coming over, and all sorts of things were going on down there. It was just normal for me, you know. I mean, there's people say to me, why don't I take lots of pictures? Well, I see these things all the time, you know, and I always have. And to be honest, they were an annoyance. They almost spoiled my childhood, you know. Sorry. So let's move on to the
Slides.
presentation. Sorry, I've never got emotional about this before. I've asked Mary tonight. Apologies.
Just click it. Yeah, it's right. It's good.
Good way of it.
Do it again. Do you want to keep going again?
Yeah, just go to the next bit. It's a bit of writing there.
Ah.
Okay, so me and my wife got burgled in Newport. We were living in Pontier in Newport. We got burgled. We moved down to Gower. I thought, if I'm going to move anywhere, I want to move somewhere nice. And we had this beautiful barn conversion on the coast overlooking the estuary in Landimore. and I worked from home and I had a little office, and like I said, I could see the whole of the estuary. Has that gone on my side?
No, I just,
You just checked that.
yeah.
So you can see my house on the left-hand side there. There's a tennis court to the top of the screen. So there's a large arrow pointing at the point where I saw an object. So it's 2010, October the 7th, 2010. I'm downstairs with my 2-year-old daughter then, Daisy May, and my wife's upstairs having a shower. I've just done a day's work. My wife didn't work, she looked after my daughter, and then I looked after her in the evenings, and she did her own things in the evenings. Yeah? So I'm sat downstairs in the TV room, and my daughter walks over to the conservatory window and she points out. She's not talking that much at this point, but she walks over to the conservatory window, she points out, she said, bright. So I was impressed to start with. That's a great word. You know, bright. She's not talking much, and I was impressed. So I walk over to the conservatory thinking, what's she looking at? And she's pointing straight at my neighbour's tennis court. So you can see it on the left-hand side there. In the top right-hand corner, there was an orange orb, a large transit-sized orange orb right next to the tennis court. There was a tree in the right-hand corner at the back, and this was level with my house. I'm living on the top of the hill, the very first house in Landimore, so I've got the best view, so I'm looking down. But this thing was literally level with my conservatory, and the only way to describe it is like an egg shape. There is a picture, you'll see in a minute, I took plenty of pictures. An egg-shaped sun. It looked just like a sun, okay, but it's in the night time. This is between 8 and 9 in the evening. So yeah, this is the actual object. It's not a made-up object. That is the actual object that we saw. This all happened over the space of an hour. Okay, this incident. This wasn't the fleeting little thing that just shot off and it was gone. This was an ongoing event. So, do you want to go to the next one? Okay. So this thing is in the sky. It then, if I'd have blinked, I would have missed it. If you listen to when they talk about the Nimitz incident and the 80,000 mile an hour craft, the Tic Tac that shot to the sea, you know, in a blink of an eye, it would, you know, that's how fast it was. This is how fast this object was. It literally shot half a mile to my right. Remember though, I'm looking down at it, so it's literally very close to me still, it seems. It's not, you know, like half a mile you think, that's too far, you can't see what's going on, mate. No, this was literally boom to my right, and I can still see it perfectly. So I thought it had crashed. It was so fast, and I thought, oh my God. Even though I've seen these things before, like I said, this was strange because it was my daughter that started it off, and it just put me off guard a little bit. And the fact that it moved so fast, I'd never seen them up until that point move like that. They'd never done. Normally they just mosey along around me, yeah, or they just drift like a balloon, that sort of speed, really slow. Always let me have a show. This was like crazy speed. Boom. So I thought it had crashed. There was no explosion. Then, to the north of that, between Buryport and Llanelli on the opposite coastline, do you want to change screen? Actually, go to the next one, mate. There you go. I skipped a bit. Yeah, this object appears. Okay, so directly opposite me, and in between this object that has now landed on the ground, the orange orb, this white object appears. There's a cloud. So you can't see the stars, and the cloud level is low. So this was actually quite low between Buryport and Llanelli, this white object. Do you want to go back now, mate, to those other two? And as I'm watching that and thinking, oh, what the hell's that? I can hear, I've opened the window now so I can see if I can hear anything. I can hear a thing. There's no sound apart from wind. So we're on top of the hill and this on the coast. And now I can hear what sounds like a Chinook helicopter coming from Gowerton area. So, large twin-rotor military Chinook helicopter coming in directly towards this object that's now on the ground, the orange orb. This orange orb is now giving off massive flashes of light. Lots and lots of different colours. Huge flashes of light, like a lighthouse. And they seemed to be directed to me. That's the way it felt to me. But it was so bright, it felt like everyone in the area should have been able to see it on both sides of the coast. You know, the whole Gowerton to Landimore should have been able to see this because it was like a lighthouse. It was crazy bright. I was literally going, wow, every time it would flash. That's how bright these things were. I mean, I ran down to the bottom of my house to get my office, to get my binoculars and a brand new camera that I'd literally turned up 1 or 2 days before. I'd never used the camera. I bought the camera for product pictures for my business because I was selling things on the internet and I needed a camera. But I hadn't learned how to use it. I'd literally, you know, it's like something turns up and you're not ready to use it, you just test it. So just in case you've got to send it back, that's what I did. You know, I put the batteries in and that was just the extent of what I knew about that camera. I hadn't tested it or anything. I didn't have a clue how to use it. Anyway, so I go back to the top of the house, I start looking through the binoculars. Again, these flashes, they're almost too bright to look at through the binoculars. This is all going on, all these flashes. The helicopter has now got up to the object on the ground, about 200 feet, something like that. That's a guess, obviously, because it's half a mile from me. But it gets very close. There's a light that passes between this helicopter and the object on the ground, and the helicopter vanished. Okay, so I had the window open, and the helicopter now is very, very loud, yeah, and it just vanished, and so did the sound of the helicopter, just gone. Okay, but it immediately reappeared, and the sound immediately reappeared back down by Gowerton, and it did exactly the same thing over and over and over. This was 8 or 9 times I watched this helicopter come in. I watched the light shine, the noise getting louder and louder and louder, and then it just vanished each time. So this was not a real helicopter. Okay, and over the years, I've come to the conclusion that this was some sort of distraction to make people think this was a real human event. Yeah, and so don't pay any attention. This is probably the police or the Coast Guard or something like that. Well, it's not. Okay, these helicopters are a thing. I've looked into them since. I'm big into researching this subject now, and I've made contact with people like Eric Davies, Hal Puthoff, all the top people in this topic, and they've told me papers that they've released based on these objects can basically make themselves manifest and look as anything they want to look at. They can make themselves look like a house, they can make themselves look like a meteor, a cloud, anything. They can alter your perceptions, and they can also be used in a holographic way. And I've been told that this is very similar to an incident called it's escaping me. 23 helicopters, isn't it? What's it called? Cash Landrum. Yeah, the Cash Landrum incident in America where 2 ladies and a young child were injured and had radiation burns, and they reported seeing a diamond-shaped object, a craft at the time. This is what did that, but at the same time they reported 23 Chinook helicopters were supposedly chasing after this object. Well, they researched that, and there weren't 23 helicopters within hundreds and hundreds of miles, and none of the bases had anything like 23 helicopters available to them. So there was no way that they were real helicopters. So again, this is why it was pointed out to me. They use fake helicopters. Again, there was a Russian video released in 2006 where they did a soft disclosure, and the Russians did a soft disclosure about USOs, underwater UFOs, basically they are. And they reported that a helicopter was seen and used as a way to distract the Russian Navy, because they were trying to trap a USO, and they literally got it in a bay and they were trying to destroy it. And they reported that a helicopter arrived out of nowhere, flew nothing like a normal helicopter would fly, and as soon as that arrived, the USO escaped and the helicopter vanished. Okay, so these helicopters are a thing. So, you know, we've literally had this incident on your doorstep, so you're aware. I mean, this sort of thing is going on. It's just happened in Australia as well. I was talking to Ross Coulthard, the investigative journalist. He's become a good friend. He interviewed me about 2 years ago for his book, and he told me that he'd been speaking to Special Forces troops, and the Special Forces troops had seen orange orbs at the same time as fake helicopters. So again, this is a worldwide thing that's going on. So be proud of the fact that we're in Wales, and this is actually pretty special. You know, that we've had a landing case that is you've probably never even heard of, most of you, on your doorstep. But you've also had pretty amazing thing going on with this helicopter. This very, very rare. It's only happened, from what I can find, and I've been researching it now for 20 plus years, 4 other incidents where this has happened, and I've just told you about them. So again, it's pretty special. I mean, Wales is a hot spot. You know, you really have got to realise.
There are others we've investigated.
Yeah, so I'm learning. But I did an interview with Mike and Emily the other day, and they spoke about some other helicopter incidents in Wales, and I was quite shocked, to be honest. I've never heard of them. Yeah, very interesting. Right. So anyway, this object, after the flashing has gone on, I've missed the part here. It literally, the flashing stopped. All these different massive flashes of colour stopped, and the object turned into a blue craft. So what you can see there, that is the same craft. The orange orb lands, and then it turns into that blue object, and that is the blue object stayed there at this point. Okay? The object is still, the other object, the white object, is still over Llanelli, between Burrickport and Llanelli. It's not doing anything, it's just literally sat there. It's about the size of a very large moon, but it didn't really do anything. It seemed to be like keeping an eye on things and not really doing anything. As I'm watching the helicopter, another object comes in from the sea. Do you want to skip forward now, Mike? That's the helicopter, by the way. As you can see, I took pictures, and that looked nothing like a helicopter. Each picture that I took, and I took about 60 pictures over the course of an hour, every single picture is different. Every single, I mean, there's camera shake, and they're overexposed. I'm not going to lie. I hadn't learned how to use this camera, and you know, I was shaking when I was taking these pictures, and it was quite an intense experience going on, and I couldn't keep still to do it properly, unfortunately. But as you can see, they still look nothing like a helicopter. The colours are all different each time as well. I mean, sometimes they would just be black. There would be nothing in the picture at all. There'd be something amazing would happen, and I'd be like, oh, brilliant. And I'd take the picture, nothing there. Okay, so the best parts of the incident, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to see. And I found out the next day that the camera had a video function. Like I said, I didn't know. Okay, apologies to everyone that you could have been able to see tonight. The best, honestly, it was the best. It would have been the best UFO thing that you'd have ever seen, because it was. You know, it shocked the hell out of me, and I've seen these things all my life. This was an intense experience, and I wish I could have shared it with you. Do you want to go to the next one? And again. Yeah, so that is again, it's another different picture. That is the helicopter, and that is the blue object on the ground, and that's the sort of distance that we're coming up to each other. That's the way it seemed to me before this helicopter just vanished. Again, it looks nothing like a helicopter. It's like barrels or something. I don't know how to describe it. And the next one. Now, this is the green object that came in from the sea. Okay, so I watched this green object come in. I've been missing it coming in all this time. It coming very low, and because I've been concentrating on the right, to the right of me towards Gowerton and watching that and the helicopter, I'd missed this object until it got really close up to the one on the ground. And it had turned orange again. It had been an orange flash. That's why that is the blue object that I'm talking about a second ago, the orange orb. And that is the green object on the top picture, that came in from the sea. Now, what happened next, the only way to describe that is like a Star Trek beam came from this object, the green object, like a tractor beam. It wrapped itself around the object on the ground and literally took it out to sea. Very low, didn't fly off at speed. I mean, I think this object was in trouble, okay? I think that when the flashes of light were going on, I've looked at it since, and if you look at things like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, You see the flashes that are used in that. That's a communication. Now, I've been told as well that the best form of communication is light. So when those massive flashes of light going on, I've come to the conclusion they were basically calling for help, because within minutes, these other objects all arrived. Okay? Do you go to the next one? Yeah, so there is the object on the left that looks like a DNA helix. I mean, that's a bit of camera shake, to be quite honest with you. So don't think it's DNA helix. It's not. It's a bit of camera shake. But in the middle of there, you can see there are actually two objects, and that is the two objects going out to sea. Okay. Next one. Okay. Next day. These have gone out to sea now. I looked on the news that night. There is nothing. Oh, I've missed a bit. I go upstairs at one point and grab my wife. She's in the shower. Okay, so I drag her out the shower. She's got absolutely no interest in this topic at all, and she thinks I'm nuts for being involved. She doesn't want me to be involved in it. She doesn't want my family being involved with it. She's not liking the fact I'm here tonight, to be quite honest with you. But I have decided it's time for me to start talking, and that's why I'm here tonight, and that's why I'm on the internet now. The last 3 years, since the Nimitz and the New York Times things came out, I decided that's it. My business is successful enough that I don't need to worry about it anymore. If anyone's upset by it, tough. Okay, that's the way I am about it now. So there's nothing on the news that night. I can't believe it, all these massive flashes of light, this helicopter. I'm thinking everyone must have seen this 9 times. This helicopter came in. It must have been thinking all this noise this thing was making. All my neighbours, what's going on? No, there was none of that going on. So then the next day, I'm down in my office. I'm having my normal day of work. It's Friday now. I'm obsessed by this, and I think I've got to start doing something about it. So I walk down the hill. I'm on top of the hill, and I think I'll chat with my neighbours and see whether anyone did actually see this. Nobody had seen it. Okay, I saw one gentleman who was in his garden who I'd seen before, and the area is a tourist area. You're all probably aware, it's a caravan area, and it's a lot of people are not there. In that time of year, they've had their summer months and they've gone back home, and they've got their summer houses, and that's the sort of area it is. So I saw a lady that I'd never seen before, but I showed them both. I put the images that I'd taken on my laptop when I took them down, and they couldn't believe that they'd missed what I'd seen, but they had. I was gobsmacked, to be honest. I thought everyone was going to know about it, and everyone was going to say, yeah, it was amazing, and I've got pictures as well. No, I didn't get anything like that at all. I didn't get any help. So I go back to my house, and I'm sat down on my normal day's work, and I look out, and in the spot where this thing's landed, if you know the area, from Weobley Castle on the Gower, there's a track that goes out onto the Lucker Estuary. There's a gate, a locked gate, and there's a track that goes out. This thing has literally landed on the track. Okay, it was my normal daily view from my office. I knew exactly where it had landed. And I'm looking out the next day, and 2 black vans are at the spot the very next day where this object had landed. I'd never seen anyone out there apart from a farmer who goes out there and tends his salt marsh lamb. He's got salt marsh lamb out there, but I've never, in 2 years I may have seen him 4 times. He was very rarely out there as well, so it was really unusual to see. I know it's black vans, and everyone thinks men in black and all that, but I can't help the fact that they were black. Okay? They were literally wandering. There was 3 or 4 men. I couldn't tell because they were going between the vans all the time. They were going around with what looked like metal detectors or radiation. I didn't have my binoculars and my camera with me at that point because I'd left them at the top of the house, from the previous night. And to be honest, I was really busy with my business at that time. And when I was in work, I concentrated on my business and I carried on my day. I kick myself now that I didn't go and get my camera and take pictures of those so that people know that I'm telling the truth about the black vans as well. But I've got pictures of the UFO, so So next slide, mate. So yeah, same day again on the Friday. I think, right, I'm not getting anywhere with this. I've just finished my day. I'm going to start phoning around. So I phoned up the Swansea Airport, even though I know it's a commercial airport, like aircraft place, it's not going to be involved in this at all. But I thought, what if they've got something on the radar or something like that? I'll phone them up just in case. Didn't know anything about it, nothing to do with us. Sorry, I've skipped a bit. On the night, I actually phoned the police. After I went up to my wife and I came back downstairs, I actually phoned the police because I thought this is a major incident, I'd better report it. Okay? The police said nobody else had reported anything, and could I keep in contact with them? And I mean, they used to keep in contact with me after that. They were phoning me up literally every week for weeks on end. Had I heard anything more about this, because everyone was interested in the police station, they were telling me. Okay. So back to phoning around, I phoned Swansea Coast Guard. Swansea Coast Guard said, no, it's nothing to do with us, because I was thinking, is it a Coast Guard helicopter? Am I being stupid, Even though I've seen these things before, I thought I've got to cover my bases, No, it's nothing to do with us, but why don't you try the Cornish Coast Guard, they said, because they sometimes do exercises in the area. So I phoned them as well, and they said, no, this is nothing to do with us. I phoned on the opposite coastline, directly opposite me is RAF Pembrey, so I thought maybe it's something to do with them. I phoned them. They were really, excuse the language, pissy with me on the phone, didn't want to speak to me about it at all. Why are you bothering with this rubbish? That type of, it was an embarrassing phone call, an annoying phone call. After I put the phone down, I was annoyed with them, because they just didn't want to know. No, we shut at 5 o'clock, go away. That was the sort of reply I had from them. I phoned the local fire station. I thought, well, initially I thought it was an explosion, again, with a fire station, did anyone report something to them? No, nothing to do with them. So absolutely nobody was helping me with this at all. I wasn't going anywhere. There was nothing on the news. There was nothing on the radio. None of my neighbours had seen anything. Can we go on the next one now? So about a week, let me come back in a minute because a lot more went on in the next couple of days. But about a week later, I went to the local garage and there was nobody in there. So embarrassment was not a problem. I said to the lady behind the counter, has anyone, Landimore garage, I think that's what it was, has anyone reported seeing anything? And I told them what had happened, And she said, yes, we had some tourists in here a few weeks ago and they saw flashes on the marsh and they said everyone had seen it. Trouble is, they were tourists and I couldn't get in contact with them. So, dead end, yet again. Next one. So, I'd never been to the local castle, so like I say, the track went out from the local castle and I'd seen these black vans and I thought I had a bit of a slack day in work and I said to my wife, I used the excuse, let's go to the castle, love, yeah? Let's go and have a look around the castle. But my real intent was obviously I wanted to speak to the farmer who ran the castle and had the sheep out there because I wanted to know who these guys in the black vans were. Okay, and who, why did you let him out there? I wanted to know if he knew anything. So we go around the castle. They had from memory, it was a marquee or something they had up as a little coffee type area. So afterwards we went in there and to have a coffee and again, the lady behind the counter, I said to her, can I speak to the farmer? How do I speak to him? And amazingly, the guy sat right behind me was the farmer. I couldn't believe my luck. It was like, what a perfect day to pick to go and to speak to him, I couldn't believe he was in there. But I told him again what had happened, and I said, who were these guys? Who were these guys in the black vans that you let out there? And he looks at me with a puzzled expression, and he says, I've never let anyone out there. Nobody has ever been out there. In fact, I very rarely go out there. Okay? So I'm disbelieving this as well, because I've seen them. Okay, so he said, I'll prove it. So he takes me down, me and my wife, go down the hill. He takes us to the gate, and you can see the gate is padlocked up, and it's rusted up, and it looks like nobody ever goes out there, and there's a sign that says, keep out, and you're not allowed out there. Okay, so who were these people? I mean, my friend Ross Coulthard, the investigative journalist, has spoken to Lou Elizondo. I don't know whether any of you know Lou Elizondo. Is quite famous in this. You probably all know him. Sorry, excuse me. No, Lou Elizondo ran ATIP for the American government, basically, for looking into UFOs. When they said they'd stopped looking into UFOs after Blue Book and things like that, that was rubbish. They carried on, okay? And Lou Elizondo came out about 3 years ago, basically, and said, I ran it, and he's proved it since. Okay, he's been involved in getting all the information out and trying to get hearings in Congress and things like that ever since. Anyway, my friend Ross Coulthard, this investigative journalist, went to meet him because he was writing this book and he wanted to interview him. And during that time at his house, he told him about this incident of mine because we'd become good friends. And he told him about the black vans. And I mean, Lou sent me a video saying, you know, wish you were here type video. I don't know if you've seen that one. So, to give you an idea, I am quite involved in this topic as apart from just doing this in Wales. I mean, the guys at Sufon tend to concentrate, apart from Mike, tend to concentrate on what's going on in Wales, but I've tended to concentrate what's going on in the world. And I don't know whether it's something to do with what's going on with me and my interactions, but I tend, for some reason, I'm allowed to speak to people. I speak on a daily basis with Hal Putoff, I speak to Eric Davies, I speak to everyone at the top of this topic, everyone, okay? I mean, I've got a private group of scientists that I chat to, again, every day. Part of the SCU team, I don't know whether people know that, there's the UAPX team in America that are just looking at the Catalina Islands. They're all part of my group, okay? And so we all interact and we're all brainstorming and none of us have got a clue. So, okay? And they are the people that know. We've got people from Black Projects on our team. We've got ex-SAS intelligence people on our team. And they all know bits, but nobody has got the real picture, okay? Where am I? I've gone off track. So anyway, I've gone to the local farm. Where are we now?
Right down to the marsh where the paddock is, the gate.
Yeah. So I mean, I didn't get anywhere. He took us down to the gates. There was nothing that, you know, there was no way we got it. Anyone had gone out there. So yeah, Lou Elizondo basically told my friend Ross Coulthard, like the helicopters, had my perception been altered. And had something else been at that spot as apart from black vans and men, okay? Maybe that there's something else they're cleaning up. I mean, if you look into this topic, you'll see that sometimes these things drop things, like metals and white powders and things like that. And then teams have been reported to have gone in and cleaned up those areas, okay? So, basically, Lou is saying, have I been messed with again? Has my perception been altered? And these were not really men at all, okay? Because there was no way anyone was able to go out there. Okay, the gates were locked, the farmer hadn't let anyone out there, so what were they? We don't know, I don't know. It's pure speculation. I've also been told that by this ex-SAS guy, who's an intelligence guy, that the SAS bases are based in Wales for a reason. And the hint is this topic, because Wales is a hotspot, and you've probably, most of you have probably seen the Penturk incident, where, you know, they knew something was going to arrive. They know something's going to arrive because we're in Wales and things are arriving all the time. Okay, so the bases are based in Wales, and they're in a triangular formation because they're expecting things to happen in Wales, and they've got a quick clean-up team, they've got a quick reaction team to be able to go and sort anything out when it happens. That's the reason. He also said that the black vans, if they weren't something being manifested and trying to alter my perception, they were SAS. Because the hint was that the SAS are used as clean-up teams. Okay? And they go in and they collect up any metals that have dripped or have been dropped or any powders. Okay, so that's that side of things. The next one. Yeah, so I didn't know who to speak to after this landing incident, and so I noticed, I can't think where now, in the press somewhere, I saw that Nick Pope, who used to run the Ministry of Defence, UFO project investigations, was giving out his email. So I emailed him. I sent him all my raw pictures that I'd taken that night, and I was hoping he was going to come back and tell me that I'll check the radar, you know, I'll have a word with the RAF. I was really naive, I'll be honest. It was early days, and I literally thought he was going to help me, and I was going to find information. I was very naive. Okay. He was no longer involved with the Ministry of Defence. He literally said to me, "Your pictures are baffling and intriguing, and unfortunately I'm no longer involved with the Ministry of Defence, so I can't help you with this. But contact Bufora. Bufora are like MUFON, where they investigate in the UK any UFO incidents." I contacted them. I drew a blank with them. They didn't even bother coming back to me. I mean, that really annoyed me, because if you know, landing cases are beyond rare. They don't happen very often anywhere in the world, let alone in the UK. Well, we've got Berwyn Mountain, where there's a potential landing case. We've got Rendlesham Forest, where there was a landing case, and we've got mine, ours, okay, on our doorstep. And Bufora didn't want to know. Okay, so I didn't get anywhere with them, and I've never been back to them since. A complete waste of time. I don't want to know about them. Next one, mate. Okay, so I haven't found any other witnesses to speak to. There was nothing reported on the TV or the radio. The police kept on calling me back, like I said, if I'd heard anything, and I hadn't heard anything. I went on a website called Above Top Secret. I didn't know where to post what I'd seen. There wasn't anywhere in those days, where you could literally just send, "I've seen this," and were there any other witnesses? I didn't know how to tell anyone or tell the world. Okay, so I went on this stupid website called Above Top Secret, and I told them all on there. I showed them my pictures, and I was getting things like, "Those are street lights, mate. Yeah, this is in the middle of the marshes. Those are street lights." There were street lights on the opposite coastline of Llanelli and Burryport, but in the middle of the marshes, there was obviously no street lights. So I was getting, they're too good to be true, or they're rubbish pictures, or they're overexposed pictures. Yeah, they were overexposed, I admit. They were overexposed because I didn't know what I was doing. Okay? So I didn't get anywhere with them. I got myself off there. I did post it on a website called ukufo.co.uk. I seem to remember his name, the address, and I had much better response on there. People were being serious about it. Obviously, it was a site that was more dedicated to UFOs, so you expect that. But one person said to me that they had been in the area as a tourist, and they had seen things as they were walking their dog. They had seen lights out on the marshes, they reported, and that's still on that website to this day. But unfortunately, I haven't got his contact details, and there's no way of contacting him, so again, it's a dead end. I mean, it's pretty mad. I'm hoping that somebody here tonight is going to say, "I saw it all." Yeah, I'm hoping one of you is going to walk up to me and say, "I saw it all," because I really need other witnesses. I've got pictures. I mean, it's something that's missing in most of the UFO cases. I've got pictures, I've got the evidence of that side of things, but it's just me. My wife is not interested. My daughter was 2 at the time. She's not really can't class her as a witness, and my wife doesn't want to know. So she would say, "Yes, I saw something." He dragged me out the shower, and I looked through the binoculars, and I saw something for 2 seconds. I mean, she said, "Oh, that's interesting," and then she carried on. Unless they're going to come down and steal my wife's handbags, she's not interested in UFOs or aliens. Okay, that is the extent of where she is with it, and I'm the complete opposite. I'm obsessed. It's become a 15-hour day, 7 days a week project of research for me. I literally live this topic every day of the week. Like I say, I contact all the top people, and I'm involved heavily. I've run a podcast now, and hopefully we're interviewing the top people in the topic, and I got sick of basically listening to other people's podcasts where they were asking the wrong questions. They were asking stupid questions, and you sat there hoping they're going to ask Lou Elizondo, what do you mean by dimensionals? explain what you mean by dimensional. So nobody ever asks him those questions. You know what I mean? So I started the podcast, well I didn't start it, I joined a podcast that have been going recently, and I've done about 6 episodes, so specialaccesspodcast.co.uk if anyone's interested in that. Where are we now? Yeah, so on this map here you can see that is the Gower, the reddest area, that is the magnetic anomaly over the Gower and the Swansea area. I mean, Wales is intense anyway, we're crisscrossed with ley lines, but magnetic anomalies as well, and the Gower, in the very spot where the arrow is, where I was living, is the most intensive place in Wales, if not one of the most intensive areas in the UK. So I speculate, obviously, but I think that might have something to do with the fact that I was seeing so many objects when I was living at that location. They were literally, it was all the time. I mean, I see things sometimes every couple of weeks, sometimes every couple of days. Down there, it was every other day. Okay? You really lucky if you're interested in this topic and you get to see these things that you've got that on your doorstep, because you can literally go down there and
We do have, there's quite a few sightings from that area over the years, you know.
yeah.
So it sort of backs up the claim that it is an active place, but
Oh, it's very
there's a lot of sightings down there.
Yeah. I would literally be outside with my daughter and we'd be sat in the garden and they would just literally go on there. You know, that's what it was like down there. And I see them all the time. Yeah. People get annoyed with me that I don't take pictures. I mean, I had an incident on Christmas Day, a couple of years ago now, on Christmas Day. We were coming back from family for Christmas lunch, and my wife and my daughter in the car, and we get about a mile from home, and my daughter says, again my daughter, because my daughter can see these things just like me, she sees them all the time as well. She points out the window and says, "What are those, Dad?" And there are 3 giant orange orbs in the sky, just above the road, right in front of us, just sat there, just not moving at all, about the size of a hot air balloon. And again, my wife's not interested, but everyone's going nuts with me. Why didn't you stop the car and take pictures? Well, I see them all the time. It's not a big deal. Do you know what I mean? I see those orange orbs, 3 orange orbs every 3 or 4 months. They're always around. They don't do anything, and they don't tell me anything. They don't give me a download, and there's no messages. So it's just a normal thing for me. Okay, and I stopped taking pictures after the Gower and all the abuse I took, to be quite honest with you. I took so much abuse, you know, I really didn't want to be in the topic. I concentrated on my family life and my business, and I literally got out of this topic, and it was only the Nimitz thing that brought me back out. And I've just bought a camera now, a new Sightings colour night vision camera. I mean, I had that for Christmas off my wife. It rained this Christmas, just gone. It rained until the 7th of January, okay? We're in Wales, okay? Or it was cloudy, so I didn't get outside until the 7th of January. Literally turned the dial to record, put it up to my eye, orb, okay? Took 3 seconds and I had an orb. You know, Mike's got the pictures, the video of the orb, and straight away it wasn't on flight radar, it wasn't on satellite trackers, apps, and there was no sounds, there was intermittent flashing, not like a plane, and you couldn't see it with the naked eye. I could only see it with the camera. Okay, so I would suggest anyone, if you've got the budget and you can afford to get yourself one of these Sightings night vision cameras, they're only about 350 quid, well worth it, trust me, because quite a few things I've recorded, and I recorded, I'm going off where I'm telling you here, but I recorded only, I don't know, it's about 2 months ago now. What did I tell you about this? The red orb? Yeah. About 2 months ago?
3 months ago.
Okay, so I go outside and I just see these things. When I go outside and I try and see these things, I will see nothing. Okay? When I really go and look, I will see absolutely nothing. It's pointless me going out on night watches and things like that, because it won't happen for me. Okay? It's when I go outside with my dogs and I'm blasé, and that's when it happens. You know, if I'm taking rubbish out and I look up, I'll just spot something. I'll be sat in my office in the house and I'll see a tic-tac. I reckon. Just fly past the window. You know? and I'll run outside. You're always too late. I've been trying to capture things to prove that I see things, but you're always too late when you get outside. Anyway, 2 months back, I'm outside with my dogs, and a giant red orb goes right over the top of my head. This cloud level, and the cloud level is really low. This thing is below the cloud level. It's massive. It's like the orange orb that I showed you earlier, but it's bright red. For some reason, in the last 6 months, they seem to have changed colour on me. They've always been orange, but all of a sudden I'm seeing giant white ones and giant red ones now. Okay, so anyway, this red orb goes over. I run inside. I grab my night vision camera, and I start filming. And I've watched so many videos now where I get annoyed with people because they don't show the scale, they don't talk. You know, I mean, this thing's got GPS on it, it's got everything you need, but I talked my way through this. I was making sure everything was working perfectly. It was an oh my god moment, almost as good as the Gower Landimore incident. An amazing object, huge. I could see the red coming off it, going onto the clouds above, reflecting onto the clouds above. I'm filming it all. The cows, I mean, I'm on a farm, and the cows are all getting really agitated all around me, mooing and running around like lunatics. Again, I filmed that. So I captured this thing, so it's only going slowly. It gave me time literally to go and get my camera. I came back out and started filming. And it moves towards the hill just in front of my house, and it lands on the hillside, and I've got it all absolutely perfectly. All scaled up, all spoken in, all the description you want in one of these videos. And then, to be honest, I get bored. It's sat on a hillside, and like I said, I see these things all the time, so I got bored. I turned off my camera, and I think I'll go inside now, take the dogs back in, I'll watch it, I'll put it on the big TV. I go back inside, and what happens next is what always happens when you try and film these things. There's nothing on the camera. Okay? The SD card was empty, and I was lucky I had downloaded the other things that I'd been filming over the previous few weeks. I'd downloaded them a few days previous. They were all still on the SD card at that point. I filmed this thing, I come back inside, my SD card is now blank. None of those other previous videos are now on there, and nor is this object that I've just filmed. Okay? That is the sort of thing that happens when you try and, when you get the most amazing sighting, they won't let you film it. Okay? And it's like people say, why are these things fuzzy when you take a picture? It's like they're in between dimensions or something. That's the reason why you can't take a good picture of these things. When they've come from another dimension, if that's what's going on, and come through, then you've got a chance. The trouble is, when you get that chance, they don't let you have that chance. They don't let you take a picture. Your camera will be blank. That's what happens. Okay? That's happened loads of times. I tried that for a good few weeks after the Gower. I was trying to take more pictures because I was still seeing these things. Anyway, let's go to the next one. Okay, so on the Friday, let's go back to the landing. On the Friday, I phoned everyone. I didn't get anywhere, and just had my normal day's work. And the Saturday then, it's October, and I'm thinking I'm going to cut my grass now. My wife's gone shopping with my daughter into the Llanelli, and I think I'll cut the grass. And I'm going across we had a driveway, and I had a robot lawnmower, and I'm driving my robot lawnmower across the drive, and I've glanced to my left, which is the Newport direction, and the same emerald coloured craft that had come in from the sea on a Thursday and collected this object and taken it out to sea is now coming towards my house from the Newport direction. Okay, not that high up, only a few hundred feet, and it literally comes in very, very, very slowly and stops right in front of me, right above my house. My house was a barn conversion, it was right in the middle of the barn conversion. I'm here, and this thing is literally there, and it's like an emerald, as in like a jewel emerald colour, an emerald shape, but it was shape-shifting. They weren't panels that I could see moving around. It was like light shifting, okay, but like panels is the only way I can describe it. There was no sound, there was no static in the air or anything like that. But people have reported things like that. It was literally just there. So I'm looking at this open mouthed, thinking, oh my God, you know, what's going to happen next? And it shoots into the middle of the Locher estuary, straight down the length of my house. It's straight into the middle of the estuary in like blink, boom, into the middle, and then it takes an immediate left turn out to sea. There's no banking like a plane. This thing literally went boom, boom, straight out to sea. Okay, no sound. And as I'm watching that open mouth and seeing it go into the distance into like pin, thinking, oh my God, I can't believe I've just seen this now, it's happening again. There's a whoosh behind me. I've got my back to the Newport direction, east, and two fighter jets, literally the same height as this object had been, this emerald object, knocked me off my feet. I'm now on the floor, on top of the lawnmower, looking at those two fighter jets take exactly the same path of this green object going out to sea. They were literally chasing it. But the difference is they took the same path out to the middle of the estuary, then turned left, but they banked. Okay, just like normal aircraft do. But again, I'm on my own. My wife wouldn't have mattered if she'd been there anyway, like I said, because she's not interested. But she wasn't there. And no witness, apart from me. There's nothing on the TV, there's nothing on the radio. And it was a complete waste of time me telling anyone. So, I didn't really tell anyone about that one. It was a shock, but I didn't tell anyone about that one. On the Sunday, the very next day now, we used to go up to my wife's parents for Sunday lunch every Sunday, and they lived in Cwmbran, so we travelled up from Gower, and we get to the fire station traffic lights in the middle of Cwmbran, and I'm at the front of the traffic lights, and because I've seen these things over the last few days, I'm obsessed. I'm looking at every opportunity I get now. When am I going to see them next? So I'm sat in the car, the lights are red, I'm at the front, I look to my right, and there's a disc. Bob Lazar style disc that everyone, when they talk about flying saucers, exactly what I saw. Okay, it was a dull grey metal disc just sat in the sky. There are no clouds. It is blue skies, not a cloud in the sky. There are loads and loads of people crossing the road when the lights are red. Yeah, not one person is looking up. Nobody sees a thing. Okay, and I'm getting really agitated now with my wife. My daughter's in the back in the baby seat type thing, and I'm getting really agitated. Oh my God, here we go again. And my wife can't see it because she's to my left and this thing is to my right in the car. And like I say, she's got no interest. Anyway, but she's going mad with me now because my daughter is crying, I'm shouting, it's happening again. And she forces me literally to drive off. Nobody has looked up at all. Not one person has seen this disc that's not very high in the sky. How? Yeah? How can they not have seen? It drives me nuts. It frustrates me beyond. It kills me that other people are not seeing these things because it makes me look nuts. Okay? But I got pictures, so I'm not nuts. Okay? So we drive to my wife's house, get out the car, I point to the thing to my wife. She's got no interest. She goes straight to the house. She hasn't even done it, she even looked. But it's just still sat there, and I go and have lunch. It's still sat there, because I didn't have a camera with me, I didn't have a phone in those days with it take pictures or anything like that. But so that was those few days basically in 2010. Four crazy days I can't forget, and I'm obsessed trying to find information about ever since, and everyone I show the pictures to, like Hal Puthoff, Eric Davies, they're all intrigued by the pictures. I was at a science conference with them, a virtual science conference with them recently, and we had a full discussion on at the conference about how these things are manifesting and altering our perceptions. I mean, it might be that because nobody saw that craft, the giant craft I saw when I was 15, the Night of the Triangles craft. Nobody saw that. Maybe it wasn't really a craft. Maybe this was a manifestation. I've got to take this into account now, because this thing should have been seen by the whole of Wales. It should have been seen from Newport to Swansea. It was high enough, it was big enough, and yet, okay, there was lots of other craft reported that night, but nobody reported this ridiculously big craft that I saw. I've missed a part of that, haven't I? I did miss a part of that as in I had missing time as well. I found myself in that field. There was about an hour to 2 hours of missing time that I couldn't account for. I'd obviously been to school that day, but because I'd got home and got changed, I was in jeans and a t-shirt. But it was in the middle of winter. You know, what was I doing in the middle of winter in a field, freezing cold at night? No idea of what I was doing there. It was nuts.
You got any questions?
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't confirm. We went to Wobley Castle
Yeah.
about a year and a half ago, and you were absolutely correct. They will not let you go further than the gate you're describing.
Yeah.
My second question was about the magnetism you mentioned earlier. Something is going on with the birds lately. We have a friend that keeps the prize pigeons, send him up. Something is going on. There was an article in the newspaper where 100,000 pigeons went missing.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I some nuts, I know, but 100,000 pigeons went missing. We've got a friend, he's sending them up, they're coming back for weeks, and they're not coming back at all. I work in a glass building, there's literally birds. We've had to close off areas of our building today where the birds are flying in and breaking the glass. It's really strange.
Do you remember a few months back all those birds were
Yeah.
dead on the road?
August last year.
Okay, the same day that happened, I had a load of them in my street. I live in the middle of nowhere. Okay, but on the road by me, a load of dead birds, and there were thousands of the same birds in the trees. I've never seen it before. I haven't seen it since. But literally within 2 days, I had that going on. But I found about 12 dead birds on the road.
I said, we sat
Same
on the red line in Marston,
week.
and a load of girls said, what the hell? It was almost apocalyptic. But
Yeah.
the birds flying around, absolutely, honestly, something's going on.
There's massive reports about birds and exactly what you're saying, right across the world, all linked to 5G.
It is because
it's all
Vodafone
in
actually
5G, yeah.
admitted to
It's all
turning
linked to
and
5G,
testing
it's
the
killing the
5G.
birds, not just
It's not just that. I think there's something in Africa that's going on with flamingos, and there was no 5G there. So it isn't just something with 5G. There's something going on. Yeah, because there was no 5G where the flamingos were, and they were dying as well. There was something killing them off exactly the same way those birds.
Well, that's always
Yeah, but you
happened.
could-
Yeah.
Pigeons have always gone missing through circuit before 5G. I'm not saying this isn't 5G, but situations like this have always happened. There's been other instances years ago before 5G. I don't see it.
Yeah. Oh no.
You said about insects. I keep a lot of praying mantises. The behaviour is bizarre. Some of them have drowned themselves.
Yeah.
Okay. Honestly, with the praying mantises, I've got a bearded dragon in a shed. It's not supposed to shed. It only sheds as it's growing. It's 14 years old. I was locked double the other day because there's 2 of them in there. It completely shed its skin. There's something going on.
I think it was something in the States, and they were saying about, I think it was geese or swans. Swans wanting to drown themselves because the 5G kicked in, and they just didn't know, they just couldn't cope with the neurological issues, and they wanted to drown themselves because it just was uncopable. That's just again.
Yeah, that's right. Solar flares. That's right. I mean, yeah, go ahead.
You mentioned being, interviewed in the past and not liking some of the questions, being silly questions and whatnot. What are the questions you think we should be, the main questions we should be asking?
Well, I think people should pay more attention to experiences, real experiences. People like Damien Knott in Australia, you should pay attention to the guy. He's not getting downloads. He'll tell you he doesn't get downloads. The people that say they're getting lots of downloads and they're getting messages, I'm involved in this, but I'm still sceptical. I've got to be. You've got to try and stay rational. You've got to be plausible about the sort of things that you hear, and you can't just agree with everything you hear. And Damien Knott is somebody you should follow. I mean, I interviewed Damien Knott a few months back. He's on my podcast, specialaccesspodcast.co.uk, if anyone wants to have a look at the interview. And he was on with Ross Coulthard, they're good friends in Australia. Damien, I identified Damien basically because I'd never found anyone like me. Yeah, I mean, he doesn't get downloads, he doesn't get messages, but he sees these things all the time, and he's blasé about it as well. And he documents them now because that's what he does for a living. You know, he goes outside and living in Australia, he hasn't got the problem. We've got tropical rainforest Wales here, where it's constantly cloudy. And so I imagine that if I didn't have the clouds above me all the time, I'd probably be seeing them just as often as he's seeing them. I see them often enough, but he sees them. He also gets something like Chris Bledsoe gets. Chris is a friend as well. So I've been speaking to him for quite a few years, where they know when there is something there. They know to go outside at a certain time. They get the sense to go outside and take their camera with them, and when they do, they know they can take a picture. I don't get that. You know, I'll be honest, I don't get that. He describes that as imagine you're in a supermarket and you know that somebody's looking at you when you've got your back turned to them. You know somebody's looking at you. He gets that feeling.
So are you attracting them then?
I don't know.
Are you attracting the presence? Have we done any experiments?
Well, I know that if I wanted to attract them, all I'd need to do is send up fireworks. Believe it or not. I discovered when I was living down here, so that was October, November the 5th then, obviously a few weeks later, I had all the family down, and we were in the gardens, and we were overlooking Buryport and Llanelli, what cheap firework display. Yeah, we had the best view in the world of all everyone's fireworks where we were living. So we were literally in the garden of a barbecue and watching everyone else's fireworks, and I noticed that same green emerald object coming in from the sea. Okay, and what they do is they literally come in like a satellite, and they will come in nice and slow, and they just stop. And they have lots of fireworks. It sounds nuts. I know it sounds nuts, but I've seen this now every year since. If there's been a fireworks display, not last year because of COVID, but every year since. If I go to a firework display, everyone else is watching the fireworks. I'm watching out for when these things turn up because they always turn up. And one of the reasons I got into Damien Knott was because I spotted he had also noticed the same thing, and he had actually done a video on it, and you can find that on, if you go on Damien John Knott on YouTube, you can find the video, the firework video where it's been analysed, and you can't see it with the naked eye. They didn't see it on the night. They've spotted it on the third video later on. This thing was literally coming in, shooting to the ground, just like the Tic Tacs, crazy speeds, shooting around. He's got a movie about to be released about it now. It's due any minute. So, yeah, very interesting guy.
So even if you've got all family around you, nobody else can see it, it's only yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I never spoke to my... I told my mum, my dad died a few years ago, but when I had that incident with the Night of the Triangles, I didn't say anything. Like I said, I got away. I didn't have to tell him. I didn't want to get into trouble at the time, so I never said anything. We moved house. I didn't say anything to my friends. I didn't tell my family. I didn't see the point. I thought, whatever it was, I got away with it. I don't know what happened on the night because I've got no memory of that day up until the point where I got home. I had no memory of the previous day either. You know, I still haven't. I couldn't tell you what happened on those days. But it happened, you know. I've got such a vivid memory of it all. I've got a really good memory of the actual craft. I mean, it was weird because it was like I was away from the world. It's really hard to describe. If you imagine everything is shut off around you, okay, and you just stood there and you're looking up at the sky and there's nothing else apart from you and this thing in the sky, and that's what it was like. It was like I was in a complete bubble. Sorry?
Do you believe you were abducted?
I have no idea, but I did have, it really looks like I had missing time, so I have no idea. You know, no idea.
John?
Sorry.
Knowing what you know and what you've experienced, any thoughts on, I mean, when we take into account reports of animal mutilations, human mutilation phenomena as well, any thoughts on intent, why they hear what they're doing, what are their intentions, what do you think the outcomes will be, especially considering, you know, the high-level chats you've been having with Hal Plutarch, Blue Others Arco, etc. Any thoughts?
Yeah, well, I mean, Hal Plutarch was involved with the NIDS team at the Skinwalker Ranch, where it's well known that cattle mutilations are going on. And they also did a report, the NIDS team did a report on cattle mutilations. I mean, they actually came out and said it was to do with mad cow disease, and they were saying that it's, you know, they were making sure that mad cow disease wasn't spreading around America, and that was the real reason for why these things were going on, and it was really the government doing it. To be honest, excuse the language, that's bullshit. Yeah, absolute bullshit. I will be speaking to Hal about that. I've got so many questions. I tend to send him a question a day, you know, and he normally comes back with very short answers. He never says yes or no to anything, because if he says yes or no, he's broken his security clearances. He can't say yes or no, so he's got to give me answers without, you know. So sometimes I have to go back and forth all the time with these questions, trying to get some sort of idea of what he really means, you know. But sometimes he gets fed up with that and just says.
Do you also consider that this cattle mutilation phenomena has been going on for like decades, and not one person has ever been indicted on these issues?
Exactly.
Not one person.
And it's going on in Wales as well.
It's going on
We've got mid-Wales with the sheep. And I try and tell people that's why I'm trying to do the international side of this, because Wales is not known as a hotspot for UFOs at all. You know, it's known for us lot in this room. We all know it is. Try telling the rest of the world. I mean, most Americans don't even know where Wales is. Okay, they haven't got a clue. So that's what I'm trying to push, and that's why I'm joined the SUFON team. And as far as that's what I'm trying to do is the international side of things. I'll be doing a freedom of information requests, that sort of thing with the team, and I'll be going out to the local area and trying to find them. And my daughter's off school at the moment, that's why I haven't done that. That Casey keep pushing me towards England, but as soon as she's back in school, I got the time to go and get out there and meet some people. Yeah, so I mean, cattle mutilations are worldwide, been going on forever, and who knows what that's about. Is it a psychological thing where they're trying to mess with you, trying to mess with your brain? What are they doing to our animals? We saw what they did with the bulls when they put them in the container at the Skinwalker Ranch, you know, in a container where the door wasn't even big enough to get them to fit through the door, and yet six bulls are inside this container. Crazy, you know. What are they doing there? Again, is that psychological? This is we can do anything to you type thing. Who knows? You know, it's all speculation. No idea.
Oh, yeah. Probably everyone else knows, but you mentioned downloads. What does that mean?
Well, if you watch people like Grant Cameron will always be saying Grant Cameron's on the internet. He writes lots of books. Anyone doesn't know. He's you know, he's quite popular in this topic. Grant will tell you that he gets downloads, he gets information, things he should be researching, and then he'll write a book about that topic because he thinks he's been given inspiration to write about that topic, yeah, and he feels he's then going to spread the word about that topic. He does things on. He thinks music is really, really involved. People write songs based on what they say are downloads. You know, the words of the song will be really important, like "Stay Away to Heaven" and things like that. Songs like that were written after a download, apparently. I mean, there are people like Timothy Taylor. You know, if anyone's here has heard of Diana Pasulka, and she wrote a book called American Cosmic. And there's a person in the book called Tyler. Well, Tyler's real name is Timothy Taylor. I researched this guy. He's almost a billionaire, and he's got most of his money from downloads. He gets downloads on medical products, and then he goes and does patents those products, and he's made an absolute fortune. He works with NASA, he works with SpaceX, he finances his medical company. It's crazy. I mean, he is really involved in the re-engineering of whatever the objects are. He's involved with Eric Davies at Aerospace Corp. He works there, and a number of other places. Really, really interesting guy. If you want to research them, Timothy E. Taylor. He's got about 40 patents, the guy has. Yeah.
So just to add to what you're saying, like with the downloads and stuff, and the channeling and everything, and it's like to do with Tesla and that as well. Like I have downloads and everything, and I channel spirit energy, you know, I do psychic mediumship and stuff like that as well. And it's you just tune in and you're not speaking, it's not you, and you can't remember what you're saying, like it's when you do a reading and everything. It's just for that person, and Tesla said as well, a lot of his inventions and everything didn't come from himself, he was channeling them from another dimension anyway. And that's how he came up with a lot of his inventions, and a lot of his inventions were stolen by the FBI after he died. And he had free energy and everything else, and he wanted to make the world a better place.
Yeah.
Free energy because
There are scientists as well. I mean, I've got scientists on this, I call it team, it's my chat group.
Yeah.
I use it as a team because I use it like a network team, they're my network. Yeah, if I've got a question that I want to get an answer to, I'll put it to them. They don't realise I'm quite crafty the way I get my answers out of them, but somebody in there will always be wanting to tell me.
Yeah.
And it works. So.
Yeah.
Can I ask another question?
Oh yeah, sorry.
I mean, it's not really a question, it's just thinking about where you're saying about the green light coming across and the magnetism, and it just made me think about the auroras, which are strong reds, and some whites and greens in that. And I think are the auroras to do with magnetism as well? I don't know. So someone say yes.
Yes.
If I hadn't seen the object coming from the sea and literally collect the object and take it out to sea, and maybe I would be thinking along those same lines, but I know that was some sort of object, craft or some kind,
so
and they literally collected it and took it, rescued it.
Yeah, so if you were in Scotland or Alaska or whatever, and you saw, like I've seen green, bright green, I would say that's an aurora, but it might not always be, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I get your point, yeah.
You know when you showed the photos earlier on, as far as you were concerned, you was actually looking at the Chinook helicopter, and when you took the photos, it came out the Gaza.
Didn't see a Chinook.
What did you see?
Everyone here, we're living in Wales, you hear them all the time.
Right.
You see them all the time. You get to know what a Chinook sounds like.
Right.
Everyone knows what a Chinook sounds like in Wales.
Those squiggles and things that he lets and showed, what were they photos of?
Chinook. Fake Chinook.
Right.
It's the only way to describe it. It wasn't a real helicopter, that's what I've been trying to get across.
Yeah, but could you actually see a helicopter?
What I saw were two lights. Normally you get with an aircraft, there'll be flashing lights. These were two steady lights, a red and a white light, and they're not even the same lights that came out on the pictures. Yeah, they're different colours.
Right.
But what I saw was a red and a white light on an object that came in really, really low from the Gowerton area, this area, from the harbour, from the...
What sounded like a helicopter, actually.
Oh yeah.
Right.
I mean, I was in the army, and I know Chinook helicopters, so...
They're distinctive.
Yeah, very distinctive, yeah.
Have you looked at the photographs